Okay, so for this video, I wanted to talk about complex adaptive systems. I wanted to talk about the classroom and our level of awareness and how that level of awareness can affect the things that A, we're aware of, and B, how we study those things that we're aware of. So there are a couple quotes. Typically when I read, I have this book on the Kindle, so when I take notes, I like to do it in a notebook. But a couple of the quotes from this book that I've been reading really struck a chord, and I wanted to continue to explain and expound on that. So he goes on to say that given the inherent limits of information processing, or how much you can really take in an experience, most agents, us, must actively ignore most of the potential information that they encounter because there's just so much information that's going on, we can't handle it all. So our level of awareness is really affected by that. So I'll close my notebook. Okay. Also, agents typically supplement information garnered from the outside. So all the information that we take in from the environments that we're in, whatever information, whatever level of information that we can process, we then combine that information with internally generated information. He doesn't dive too deeply into this, but I'm kind of curious as to if this is just sort of our assumptions or our predictions for how things will turn out. Because if we rely on only a little bit of what we take in, I think that really affects our decision-making processes and how we understand the things that are around us. So if you apply that to awareness and you understand, like, in order to understand how a complex system of relationship works, you have to understand all of the variables within that relationship. You have to be aware of them, and then you also have to understand how they work together. And if our awareness is minimal because of so much information that we have to take in, maybe the processes and designs that we have now aren't currently optimal or the most effective. So basically, I'm just going to do this on the fly. I don't really have many variables that I want to that I've thought to identify, so I'm just going to do this on video. But I wanted us to think about all of the physical traits of a classroom or learning experience. I want to focus on classroom this time around, but you can apply this to any environment that you're ever in. There are always a number of things that we ignore or overlook. It could be the breeze. These things are magnified if you think about when you go to nature. All of the distractions of the city and all of the busyness of the cars and all of the noise and all of that is gone, and you're sort of forced to focus on the sounds of nature that you often ignore and overlook. That's sort of an extreme, but you can start to zoom in on all of these different variables in the environment that you're in. You just have to hone your awareness. So I started off with, I want to identify the physical traits, the social traits, and the functions of each. I'm not going to do all of that on this video, but I do want to identify a bunch of variables in a classroom that we might overlook that could affect how people learn, because that's sort of what you're supposed to be doing in that environment. So we have, let's just list like everything. You have desks, and that speaks to like speaking arrangement. You have lighting. The color of the room. This also speaks to windows and lights. Now, these are all pretty simple. Like, sure, yeah, I don't pay attention to those things. Those just seem like those are in every classroom. Well, they are in every classroom, but they really do affect like the desks or the chairs that you sit in, if they're comfortable, if they're uncomfortable, once you identify all of the variables, think about all of the things that attach to those variables, all of the things that those variables affect. If you just were to think about that, so chairs or desks, think about what they feel like. Is there enough space to where you can take notes? Can you put a laptop on there? Is it easy to get in and out of? Can you move freely? Is there a place to store your bag? Is there a place to store your jacket? All of these things you can think about through all of these variables. And that's sort of the fun part of defining the functions. And then once you do that, you can sort of develop the relationships between them. And then the sort of long-term goal idea is to develop systems within these relationships that are more effective than the systems that we have in place now. So you have color of the walls, we have proven that different colors affect moods, but we don't take these things into consideration. You have the teacher, and like a number of teaching styles, a number of personalities. I mean, this is the human element as far as the teaching part, and we all know how diverse we are, as humans. So that one's obviously a very sort of wild card positioning variable. Something that you definitely have to take into vast consideration for when you're designing complex classroom situations. Windows. Another problem with windows is what you can see if it's bright lighting. If there's activities going on outside, sometimes at Michigan State the lawnmowers would go by and it's just distracting. All of these things play, but I don't think that we think about them all when we design a classroom. The type of teaching, so you'll have like overhead use. I know that doesn't happen very often, but I think it happens still in elementary schools, especially lower income ones that can't afford projectors. But you do have projectors, sort of just trying to hit some of the core of each classroom, and you can expound on all of the sort of physical details. These are sort of the social traits with communication. So these can only project sort of 2D, flat, text. Projectors can do video, PowerPoint, the sound levels, the clock. I know that was an interesting design feature that I saw. Clocks being put at the back so students couldn't see the time. The students sort of speaks to the teacher. These people like humans. So you take all of these different variables, all of the things that happen. I think one of the most interesting aspects is when you take the desks, right? Let's say that we have 3 rows, and then you have, desks all along, right? The problem is, with this model, is that the students in the front, besides this guy, the students in the front, they can't see back to the students in the back. It's very hard to do discussion, especially if these are the 4-legged desks. It's very hard to move these. Surely they bunch up together, but if you have a 50-minute class and you want to get your students into groups, and you have to take into consideration that when they do get into groups, they'll probably be distracted for a couple minutes, you also should take into consideration how quickly you can move into groups, how quickly you can get the desks back in the arrangement that you had before, because that really eats into your education time. Also, how loudly do they move? How much of a struggle is it to move them into groups? Do they have wheels? Are those wheels a distraction in class when they're staying forward? Like, all of these ways that we can solve the problems, but the solutions to one problem speaks to a problem, causes a problem for another situation. So you kind of have to dig through all of these interactions and all of where the students sit and who interacts. All of these complex systems together speak, and the fun part is sort of taking all of this and digging through them, identifying the relationships through information from, sociology, psychology, philosophy, pedagogy, all of that, dumping all of that information into this, and then finding the patterns and sort of building a better system. So that's sort of a lot of what I do when I'm approaching new environments, or this is especially what I'm working on for my education focus. So I think I'll do another video of this later on that sort of maps out the relationships better, so you can get an understanding for how they work together and how if you change one thing, it changes other things. Okay.